As cars and automobile traffic became more widespread across the industrialized countries in the early 1900s, nations began to standardize which side of the road traffic would drive on. Around the turn of the century, it was roughly an equal split between right and left-sided traffic. Some nations had regulations for horses and cart traffic, which standardized which side of the road they would use dating back to the 1800s or even the medieval period, which they then adapted when the automobile was introduced. But as the first decades of the 20th century progressed, the right-hand side became the most widely used across most countries. By the middle of the century, Sweden found itself in an unusual spot as the last remaining country on continental Europe to drive on the left. As the number of cars on Swedish roads continued to grow, so did the number of accidents and serious collisions. Sweden bordered Norway and Finland, both of whom used the right side, and signs were posted at border crossings to remind tourists and Swedish citizens to switch to the opposite side after crossing it. It became a subject of increasing concern for the Swedish government, and in 1955 a referendum was held asking if Swedes wanted to switch to right-hand driving, but an overwhelming 83% rejected the idea. But the problems persisted and continued to worsen, the number of vehicles on Sweden's roads having tripled from 500,000 to 1.5 million, and the number of accidents continuing to grow as well. On May 10, 1963, the government made the decision to go ahead and switch Sweden's road to right-hand traffic. There were several reasons, in addition to safety, improved ease of travel for tourists, and consistency with its neighbors and continental counterparts. There's also a practical economic reason. Most vehicles in Sweden at the time, about 90%, actually already had the steering wheel on the left side, like their right-hand traffic neighbors. The remaining vehicles were mostly buses and commercial trucks, which were mostly brought from British manufacturers. Few automotive companies made right-sided steering vehicles because the demand was so small globally, so switching all vehicles to a more universal option would open the country to more global manufacturers, including a variety of makes and models from the United States. For all these reasons, the Swedish government determined it was the most logical choice to make. It was decided that the country would switch over to right-handed traffic on September 3rd, 1967. The government launched a 4-year campaign to educate and prepare the public, composed of learning materials and ads made in conjunction with psychologists to help best deliver the message and get the information across. That September 3rd, 1967 date would become known as Dagen H Day, which stood for Höger traffic, or right-handed traffic day. The campaign was symbolized by a blue H, which became ubiquitous all over Sweden. The H was often also emblazoned with an arrow crossing from the left lane of the H to the right, along with a reminder of the 1967 date on which the switch would occur. The symbol appeared on all sorts of merchandise. Reminders were posted everywhere. Announcements were made frequently on the radio and TV. Special pamphlets and booklets were printed. Articles and advertisements appeared in magazines and newspapers, and special lessons were given to children in schools to help them understand the switch over as well.
It sounds easy, but it's been a complicated operation involving the most intensive propaganda campaign in Sweden's history. A great torrent of publicity on television, radio, in the papers, and special road safety lessons in the schools. No one has been forgotten. Booklets have been printed in 9 languages, along with Braille, to get the message across. Everyone seems to be in favor of the switchover.
Special driving gloves were sold with the right hand marked as a reminder of the upcoming change. Even special underwear was sold for men and women, which were happily modeled for the public. Special stickers were applied to car headlights that were newly manufactured leading up to the switch that blocked out excessive glare from the low beams on the right, bearing a sticker that stated it should not be removed before September 3rd, 1967. Kits were even sold so that people could practice driving at home with their own markers representing the dividing line on the left side.
Motorists, in fact, are well catered for. The Swedish Automobile Association has devised a simple train yourself to drive on the right-hand side of the road kit and has already sold more than 100,000. Mr. Algren, what gave you the idea for this training circuit?
In fact, it was born in England several years ago. I was driving there and with a wheel on the right-hand side, and I found that I touched the curbs very often. So I got the idea to make a training yard to train people to know how to drive.
What actually does the instruction consist of?
She is going to drive with the right wheels on this white line to begin with.
see. Would you like to
Yes.
start it off?
Ja, Inga, nu ska vi köra alltså på den här vita linjen. Försöka köra på linjen alltså. Och jag visar dig om du missar.
Do you find that drivers find this difficult when they start?
Yeah, I think they are a little afraid of it. They think it is worse than it really is. Yes.
Yeah, that's good,
Yes,
isn't it?
Good. It's good. Next one is there.
3,500 new buses were also built in Sweden, as the existing buses would have their doors opening onto the wrong side. About 1,000 of their old left-handed buses were sold to Britain for them to use there. Most tram and trolley lines in cities across Sweden, with their tracks now on the other side of the street, would be torn up and replaced by buses. A song was commissioned and played frequently on the radio, called Håll dig till höger, Svensson, which translates to Keep to the right, Svensson, and was performed by popular Swedish band the Telstar's. I have to say it's quite a catchy, classic little tune.
Jag håller till höger, Svensson. Jag håller till höger, annars slutar det bara med en smäll. Jag håller till höger, Svensson. Jag håller till höger, annars lutar det åt en redig skräll.
Over 130,000 reminders were posted around the country leading up to the switch. As the date got nearer, new traffic signs and lights were put up, but remained covered. The old signs could be taken down and the new ones unveiled in a carefully orchestrated countrywide changeover during the overnight hours of September 2nd and 3rd. In all, some 360,000 road signs would be changed across the country. The project was planned and carried out by a specially formed government body called the Statsen Högertrafik Commission, meaning the State Right-Hand Traffic Commission. In all, it cost over 600 million kroner at the time, roughly 40 million British pounds in mid-1960s currency, over 680 million pounds today. A costly endeavor, but one of the greatest public works projects of the era. Some citizens were anxious about the change, understandably concerned that it would feel unusual or even dangerous to be driving on what they felt was the wrong side of the road, even if everyone else was doing it. There would also be small but noticeable changes that would come along with it, like familiar streets that one had driven down many times before looking different as you now drove down and saw them on the side that you weren't used to. But people were also sure that these feelings would fade with time as they got used to it.
As a taxi driver, what do you feel about this changeover to driving on the right-hand side of the road?
Oh yes, I think we have to do it because some other countries in Europe, they go on the right side, so I think we have to do it. But I think it will be very difficult when we change over to the right side.
Why do you think? What will be the difficulties?
Oh yes, you see, we are used to drive here on the left side. It's easier when we go abroad, it's easier just to follow the traffic. But when we change here in Stockholm, we are so used to go on the left side. We know every building, we know every street, and we are just used to go just on the left side. And therefore I think it's more difficult to change over to the right side.
Do you think this is going to increase the number of accidents?
Oh yes, I think so. I think so.
What do you think is going to be the biggest problem for you when you do make the changeover?
Well, I don't know. To find my way in Stockholm.
Why is that?
To find my way. I mean, you used to go in the certain directions, and now everything will be changed.
I see, and it's all
and you don't know, and they will change the streets, you know, and there will be one-way roads in another direction and so on. I think it will be difficult, but of course that's no problem, because you will get used to it after a few days.
In the few days leading up to the change, speed limits everywhere were reduced and would be kept that way for a short time through and after the change to help driving feel safer during the transition. From 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. in the early hours of September 3rd, all non-essential vehicles were kept off the roads, while changes to signs, markers, and lights were made. All cars on the road then had to pull over to the left at 4:50 a.m. and wait 10 minutes, before pulling out onto the right side of the road at 5 a.m., making the switch complete.
The old traffic lights will be covered up. The forest of new ones waiting for each day will be unmasked. Every road sign will be changed or moved. Headlights, temporarily converted by strips of paper, will be instantly adjustable.
This is how it'll work. Whatever traffic's on the road at 10 minutes to 5 in the morning must come to a stop. Careful check to make sure the road's clear, and swing over to the right-hand side. Then all vehicles must remain stationary for 10 minutes. On the stroke of 5, away you go, remembering that strict new speed limits are now in force. And in fact, for the first few weeks, the maximum speed allowed anywhere, even on motorways, will be 55 miles an hour.
On that first day, only 157 minor accidents occurred, 32 involving personal injuries, and there were no fatalities that day. Statistics for the following Monday, considered the worst day of the week for traffic incidents, showed 125 reported traffic accidents the Monday after, which was actually lower than the usual 130 to 200 usually reported on Mondays. This lowered accident rate continued for months after the switch. Fatal vehicle-to-vehicle and vehicle-to-pedestrian accidents lowered significantly, and car insurance claims dropped by 40%. Sweden became the last country in continental Europe to make the switch to right-hand traffic, leaving just island nations on the left. The UK considered switching in the 1960s, but ultimately deemed it too expensive. Iceland would switch the following year in 1968, and today only the UK, Ireland, Malta, and Cyprus maintain left-sided traffic in Europe. The blue H of H-Day remains something of a nostalgic symbol in Sweden. For the 50th anniversary of the switch in 2017, Keep to the Right, Svensson was played on the radio again, and people drove period 1960 cars in mini parades at 5 a.m. to commemorate the official start of the big switch. Radio Sweden spoke to people who shared their memories from that day, with Anders Odin, who was 19 at the time, recalling him and his friends staying up through the night to be the first to drive across a local bridge into Stockholm on the right side. Pioneering right-hand trips on certain motorways being a fun goal for many people in Sweden at the time. Anders said that he and his friends arrived only to find someone else had parked, waiting to do the same thing. Radio Sweden slyly referring to Anders as the second person to drive across the bridge on the right-hand side. One memory of many from a time that stands as one of the most successful public service campaigns in history.